What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee. I'm Angela Yee on a Wealth Wednesday. So you know what that means. My partner for Wealth Wednesday, Stacey Tisdale, is here.
Happy Wealth Wednesdays, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed the eclipse. And we are about to shed some sunshine on your lives, especially the entrepreneurs out there, by introducing you to an incredible woman, Megan Holston-Alexander. She is a star in the venture capital arena. And you're all going to learn more about that right now, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs are out there and they're all scratching their heads about raising capital, and we really need to learn about this, and we really need to learn how our community can jump into the AI economy. No pressure.
No pressure at all. It's easy work.
Yes.
I've been listening to Beyonce all week. I'm very turned up. I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, Megan Holston-Alexander is here with us. Such a pleasure to have you here. I know we've been wanting to get to sit down with you because a lot of times people come here and talk about having access to venture capital funds. Some people will talk about the access that we have as Black women is way less than everybody else across the board. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have somebody from the other side of things come in and sit down and talk to us.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you both for having me. You've built such a special platform, and I'm just happy to be around. So thank you so much. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. First of all, start by educating our audience. What is venture capital?
Great startup question. So venture capital is early stage investment capital that is for high growth startups, typically in the tech space. It doesn't have to be in the tech space, but more often than not, it's in the tech space. And the way that I usually try to explain it and compare it to something that people do know about is like the stock market, right? So everybody knows about the stock market and the stock exchange and NASDAQ, where you can go and buy equity in a company. Venture capital happens before that. So before a company is available to purchase on the stock market, there's usually investors who've been investing for 5 to 10 years into that company already. But by the time it gets to IPO, which everybody hears about, which is when you can buy it, that company has been de-risked for a number of years, where the government is now comfortable with the general public being able to purchase it. So prior to a company going public, venture investors come in, they take on that risk, they help build the company, help them hire, help them grow. And a lot of times the hope is that it gets to the market to where the average person can purchase it.
What are some things that you would look for in a company to say, okay, we believe in this company enough to feel like we can invest?
Yep. So there's any number of things. CLF tends to focus on the investor side. So where do we get the Black capital
Cultural
from?
Leadership Fund, CLF.
Yep. Oh, Cultural Leadership Fund. Yes. We tend to focus on the investor side and on the talent side. But our firm has a number of different investment verticals, from bio and crypto and games, and each one kind of has their own criteria of what they're looking for. So I won't speak to what each of them focuses on, but always want to have a really great founder, a really great team, and a really quality product or vision. But the details, each one of the teams has something different.
People in communities of color don't think of venture capital as something that's within their reach. Accessible to them or realistic. Most of us bootstrap our businesses. Should we think about that differently? Because what the venture capital world reflects back to us isn't good. It barely gives us any money.
Yep. So I think there are a number of different ways to fund a business. Venture capital is just one of those. There's venture. You can do small business loans. You can bootstrap. Bootstrapping is always good because you keep the ownership for yourself as you build it. Right. And I'm really, really optimistic. Like, you're right. The data shows that venture capital has historically been, Black founders haven't received a whole bunch of venture capital, but I'm really optimistic about the future. There's like a number of new funds coming out, different GPs coming out who are making that commitment. So I'm hopeful that there will be more, but you're right. The data shows that absolutely has not been the case.
You know, we're talking about the new funds that are coming out, and the Cultural Leadership Fund, you guys do focus on a specific group, right?
So we focus on Black investors getting Black capital into tech companies and then getting Black talent into tech companies. And our goal is to invest Black money into all of the best companies. So we don't focus on a type of founder, but we focus on a type of investor.
The investors. Because I'm asking this because, when we talk about the Fearless Fund and we watch what's happening there.
That's my girl. Shout out to Arian.
Yeah, shout out to Arian. And she was up here previously too. Yeah. But what does that mean for you? Like, what are we looking at? Because that is something that is going to affect, I would think, funds that can focus on Black-owned businesses and Black investors, period.
Yep. So I think the work that Arian and a lot of other kind of GPs who are focused on founders of color, particularly Black women founders, who are the most educated and most founding group that's out there, I think is going to be highly impactful, because to have somebody like an Arian or like many others who can say, like, I'm from this community, I can see what success looks like, I know how to evaluate a company, that is going to be critical, because a lot of times the argument is that, like, sometimes other firms just may not understand. And so I think having that Black voice as an investor is going to be important. So you have to have somebody who can see the vision.
Talk a little bit more about CLF. And you said it's Black investors, but that's a really big deal. You have 71 million under management, and it is all Blacks who are investing in it.
Yes. So the Cultural Leadership Fund is a strategic co-investment vehicle inside of Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen Horowitz is a venture capital firm that's got about 35 billion under management. And then CLF is a co-investment vehicle. So we invest alongside those other funds I just mentioned. I said bio and crypto and games. So they'll write a check, and then we'll come in and put additional capital. But the reason why we think it's so interesting and exciting is that we put in that additional capital with two missions in mind. So connecting the world's greatest cultural leaders to the best new technology companies, and getting more young African Americans in tech. And for us, cultural leader means Black athletes, entertainers, musicians, C-level executives who are excited about tech. They're interested in innovation. They want to play a role in the things that are being built across this industry. And we get to be their on-ramp into doing that. So anytime you hear about, like, this athlete invested in that tech company, or this entertainer invested in another tech company.
But like Nas invested in Ring, and he...
And now, it's not always the case, but there's a pretty good chance that we played a part in making that happen. And so for the people in the culture who have the capital to invest in technology, we want to be sure that they get their names on that cap table.
What would you say to some entertainers and athletes who do have the money to invest, but they're nervous because obviously any investment is not guaranteed? And so what type of
Say
things...
it one more time, Angela.
Yeah, every investment is not guaranteed. So just because it looks great on paper and everybody's investing doesn't mean it's going to work out. And it is always a risk. But you can lessen that risk, as much as you possibly can. But what would you say to people who do have money that want to invest, but they're nervous because maybe something they did in the past didn't go the way that they anticipated, or somebody they know got burned? What would you tell them?
So I would say... there are experts in every field, and like you said, there's no guarantee to any investment. Find yourself a good partner. Find somebody who does know about the industry, somebody who has been investing in the space, and kind of work through them to learn. And we do that a ton at CLF. So we get connected with a lot of folks who have the capital, and they're like, I don't want my career to end in 5 years, and now no one knows where my money went, right? And I'm broke, and I can't, do the things that I want to do. And so we try to teach people about, when you hear Jay-Z say, I'm at the cap table, what the splits is, what is a cap table? We're trying to teach people those things. And we tell them very, in a very forward way, like, venture is the riskiest asset class. It's early, a company, you don't know if they're going to make it.
Right.
And one of the other facts about venture that people don't know is that we actually expect most of our investments to fail. That's what the economics is in venture. It's about your slugging percentage. It's not your batting average, right? So we really depend on a couple of really big hits in any portfolio, and people have to get that mindset. So venture is a very long game.
That's a good point. And that's like a record label. Record labels sign tons of artists, and there's only a few that are going to make the label some money, and the rest are not going to do much, unfortunately.
That's absolutely right. And it's such a long game, venture. Like, it's not day trading like stocks, right? I buy this today, it goes up, I can sell it tomorrow. I always tell my LPs, don't come to me in 2 years looking for money.
There'll be people like, if I would have invested 15 years ago in this, but you can't tell.
You can't do that.
What something's going to end up being.
Exactly.
And then, so.
But you guys touch on something that's so important to our economy, AI and tech.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you're really focused on. And I heard you speak at the Power Summit at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, yeah. That was
February.
a lot of fun. We had a good time.
And you had Reverend Al Sharpton was there. You had Mark Morial there. Robert Smith was there.
Yep.
And you could not be struck harder by how much all of them were talking about how important it is for the Black community to get on the AI technology bandwagon. When we hear you talk about these celebrities and artists and entertainers, to the average person listening out there that's like, well, that's not me, but tech has to be them. Talk more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the thing about AI is that it's not new. People think AI is new, but it's not. We've been investing in AI for years at this point. But a lot of new consumer opportunities, like usage for the average person, that's what's becoming available these days. And I think one of the ways that people can really dive in is figuring out ways to let AI work for you in whatever job you do, whether it's a radio host or you work in marketing,
real estate.
Think about how can I use AI as like my creative co-pilot and to supercharge the work that you do. You don't have to be a coder or an engineer to like utilize AI in an effective way.
It can really level the playing field for people. It can
level the playing field. And I think, somebody said a quote 2 days ago about like AI is, the debate is like, hey, is AI going to take jobs? Is AI going to take? I don't know. I can't speak one way or the other, but they said the person who uses AI will take your job. Right?
And we see Netflix letting people go, but hiring all these people for AI.
It's like the people, I think the people who learn how to utilize it and make it a tool and make it a superpower, that's what's going to help people be successful. And we can all do that. We can all figure out how to use it to our benefit.
I saw you posting about an app, and I was like, let me get this. That can help you find the lowest prices for flights. AI can help you with something like that. And AI can help you with like putting together a workout plan, a diet that can work for you.
Your calendar, everything. And one of the coolest things about AI is like there are now websites that will tell you how to make a good prompt in ChatGPT. So when you're trying to use ChatGPT to figure out something or make a list, it'll tell you exactly like, okay, first put the ask and then put this type of phrase and then do this. And it will get you the responses that you need. So we're working on it, and people are tinkering, and it can be really impactful. So don't be scared.
Right.
It's impactful
Jump in.
For consumers, also for the economy, jobs.
Yep.
A lot of people think, I'm in the beauty industry or I'm in the accounting industry or something. But that technology company that wants to create an AI product or something to serve, they still need your help. Like what you do can be moved into the AI industry. You just have to learn the tech.
Absolutely. You just have to learn the tech. And the other thing is that I want to let my community know is that AI is built on data, right? Training models to data. We have to be sure that our data about Black people and the Black community is in the data that we train on. There's a lot of organizations that are focused on like, how do we get archives from like HBCUs digitized and get them into the models that are going to be trained on, because I know it can be scary, right? It's like a new technology. People are like, whoa, but it's important for us to be in the front.
Right.
Right. And be sure that like we're included. Otherwise, the solutions aren't going to include us. So we have to be okay with like being sure that our data is in these models.
Megan, you went to Clark, right?
I did. Shout out.
HBCU.
I know, we got to make sure we shout
Clark,
that
Atlanta.
out. So how do you think that affected where you are today, going to an HBCU, going to Clark?
Yeah.
Talk to us about that, because now you're in a space that, traditionally in this venture capital space, there's not a lot of people that look like us in that space.
Yep, 100%. Clark, Atlanta was everything. Like, Clark, Atlanta was everything. The motto, literally, no matter where I work in all my years where I went to school after Clark, I always had our motto, like, on a Post-it or behind me in a picture frame. I'll find a way or make one, right? Because we don't accept, like, it's just too hard out here for our community. Like, you just got to keep going. Like, somebody close the door. I'll find a way or make one. I'll find a way or make one. We'll see each other. And another amazing Clark, Atlanta alum, Pinky Cole, embodies
here recently.
That's my girl. And we always like just use it in regular conversation. I'll find a way to make one, and you just keep pushing. And I think that's something you don't get everywhere.
Right.
It's very much like a HBCU and a cultural mindset. I'll find a way to make one.
But you weren't thinking venture capital when you were there.
Not at all.
You had a fancy...
Not even close.
Megan went from Clark to Stanford because she's really smart, and you had a pretty cool VC teacher.
I did. The funny middle part of the story, though, is I went to Clark, Atlanta, was on a very, very different path. I wanted to like teach and do research full time, and I was going to go get a PhD, and I dropped out. So I'm a dropout. I think a lot of people tend to think that the path is easy and it's so clear. I'm a dropout. It's okay to quit a thing, because it put me in a position to eventually move to California and go to Stanford. And it's so funny because I actually told the dean of Stanford this at one time. I'm like, I don't claim Stanford unless I have to.
Right.
Right. I'm Clark, Atlanta through and through. That's always going to be my first love, but Stanford gave me, it really opened up the world to see, like, when you do have that grit and you have that commitment and that kind of workhorse attitude and the world opens up to you, there's so much you can do. But one of the funny stories, when I was at GSB, I still wasn't focused on finance, but I ended up in a venture capital class, and my professor was Eric Schmidt, who was the former CEO of Google. People call him, they said he was the first adult in the room at Google. And it was great because I had never done anything in venture before, had never taken a class. I took it because it was at a good time. And I didn't want to be in traffic on the 101. You know about the 101. And so I took the class, and kind of towards the end, we go for a walk. Yes, around. He would go for walks with students, and he told me two things. One, I committed to not repeating again, but the other, he gave me like some good secret life advice. But the other one, he said, Megan, you're one of my best students. I know venture is not your thing, but I think you should try it for real.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, sir, don't know black people do venture, right? Just very like dismissive of it because I didn't think I could do it. And he's like, I'm serious. I think you should try. And kind of from there, I was like, you know what? If Eric Schmidt says you could try, and he may not even remember the story, he may not even remember me, but I say it changed my mindset of like, if he thinks I can do it, why don't I think I can do it? Right. And so I started doing a ton of internships. You were supposed to do one internship in business school between your first and second year. I ended up doing 4 internships while I was there. I wasn't playing. Because I was making a career change.
Right.
So like running up and down Sand Hill Road, like taking meetings with people. And it turned into my full-time job.
I love that's why internships are so important. I always talk about that when you're in college and trying to figure out what you want to do and after, if you can. I want to ask you this too, as we're talking about the Cultural Leadership Fund. How important is it for people who are getting VC funding, the people who are investing? Sometimes, VC funds, they just give money and they're quiet about it, but and not at all involved. But for you guys, you want to make sure that the people who are providing the funding are also involved.
Yep, absolutely. Like, we talk about VC a lot being like a marriage, right? It's a long-term relationship. It's a financial relationship that can go really well or really not well. And so we encourage the LPs, us limited partners, the folks the cultural leaders that we take money from. We tend to ask them up front, like, do you want to talk on the phone to founders? Do you want to spend time with them and join advisory boards and support them and help them with all the things that are your area of expertise? And I tend to find that people who are willing to put their money in at the early stage, they want to stay close to it, right? They want to know the founder. They want to be able to call them up on the phone and have the founder feel like they can call them as well. And so we try to really teach people how to lean into those moments because that's where the magic happens.
Right.
And our firm is really big generally on like operational support. So we have like a full-on marketing team to help our portfolio companies. And we've got a go-to-market team and we've got, a talent team that helps, them think about hiring. We take that very seriously. And same for CLF. We want our founders to know that they can depend on us. And a lot of our investors feel the same way.
What are the types of groups CLF's invested in?
So CLF, we again follow on to the Andreessen Horowitz portfolio. We're a co-investment vehicle. So most of the companies that you see on the Andreessen Horowitz website are also Cultural Leadership Fund investments.
Remember you were telling me they're like 25 nonprofits or something.
Yes. Ooh. I like where you're taking me, Stacey. So CLF, one of the things that we do is we donate all of our management fee and carry. So that means every single dollar that we make of profit inside of CLF, not our LP's profits, but our profits as a firm, we donate to organizations that are specifically focused on getting more young African Americans in tech. And there's no other firm doing that, and we're really, really proud. And we've been doing it since 2018, so pre-pandemic. And have done about $2.5 million so far. But we support organizations like the Hidden Genius Project and Black in Gaming and Black Collegiates in Gaming and Pursuit and Perscalis and so many that are actually based here in New York as well. But a lot of times when it comes to nonprofits, people feel like they need to start something new. Right, I got to start my own nonprofit. I got to do my own thing.
When you can support what's already existing.
But there are people who have been doing the work to get Black people in tech for years.
I think that's great.
We wanted to supercharge them. And it's been such a joy. Like, we've seen people get placements into early tech companies. We've seen people learn how to code. We've seen people figure out other ways to contribute to tech. And then we also fund organizations, but we also fund like initiatives. right? Because it's wonderful to teach people how to code, but we are of the belief that there's a number of ways to get people involved in tech. So we funded an initiative, a new thing called the Black Digital Art Collective, and it is BDAC, and basically it's a collective of people who buy Black digital art with the goal of like trying to help blow up Black digital artists, because we saw in the big like crypto art world, there weren't a lot of Black artists being highlighted. So we said, how do we put capital into what they're building and then support them and blow them up? So BDAC has been really successful so far, and there'll be a number of other things coming out like that. Like, how do we get our community at the front part of technology?
That's one other thing I wanted you to touch on. There's money to be made in tech by getting into companies early.
Yes.
For anybody out there who's like, my career path, maybe you're not an entrepreneur. There's really a lot of money to be made by getting to a startup early.
Yep. So you always hear when a company goes public, oh my gosh, the employees became like millionaires overnight. It wasn't overnight. It seemed like overnight, but a lot of them have been working there, like I said, for a very long time, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years before they went public. So this concept of like early employeehood, when you go and start at a tech company, oftentimes they give you employee equity, meaning some stock options, some equity into the company, and that company is valued at a specific place when you come in. But the expectation is that as that company grows, the value of the company will grow, and so will your early employee equity.
Right.
So if you're there long enough and early enough, you have the opportunity to, when that company goes public or they get sold, because that happens sometimes too. They may not go public, but there'll be M&A activity. You have the chance for your equity to be really, really valuable. So 10 years later, they go public, and now you have a windfall, and you can now go invest, what you couldn't do before, or you can now go start a company, what you couldn't do before. So there's a ton of opportunity as an early employee to build wealth. And what a lot of people don't know is that tech has been the greatest generator of wealth over the last 20 years. And so as an individual, it is one of the, I think, clearest paths to building wealth is going to a tech company early. The flip side of it, again, it's very risky at the early stage, but there's so much opportunity there if you're interested in the space.
How do we get our tech skills up?
How do you get your tech skills up? Here's the interesting thing. Tech companies need everybody.
Yeah.
They need HR people. They need marketing people. They need finance and graphic designers. So whatever skill you already have, there's a likelihood that a tech company needs it.
Even if you think about, as we discuss AI, right? And we were discussing this last week, this open letter warning against the predatory use of AI in the music industry. Yeah. YouTube now, they put like a little disclaimer if this is something that was AI generated. And even to keep track of things like that, to make sure that, you're taking care of people who want to make sure they're protecting their art and their voice and their likeness and things like that. That's important too moving forward as people are trying to figure out, okay, I just want to make sure they can't just take, my image or my likeness and do something with it. Yep.
And one of the things that I think you're absolutely right about that. And I think one of the things that I want to point out is this happens with every industry. There's always going to be bad actors, right? In finance, or when the internet first came out and they would like steal your identity. Like,
that's still happening.
Right. There are bad actors in every industry. And what we have to figure out is like, how do we counteract that and overpower it with people who are trying to use the technology in the right way? Because a lot of, AI companies, and we've invested in several, they want to do it the right way. They don't want people stealing somebody's voice and their image, et cetera. And so they're tinkering to try to figure that out. But I think if people's hope is that like there will be no version of people doing the wrong thing, that's not true, happen.
And that's not human nature.
Right, that's not human nature. So there will always be bad actors. We just need to figure out like, how do we do it bigger and better for the people who are trying to do it right.
Yeah. I saw you guys had an event and the Dream performed at it. I saw you posting him because he was like, I haven't been performing in like over a year.
He does not go outside. He said it. He said, I don't come outside. So this is a big deal. We were very proud. We were very proud. Yeah. So we, every year we try to bring our investors together because especially after the pandemic, people just hadn't been around each other. And we want to give them an opportunity, one, to meet each other, because there's a lot of chances for our executives to meet our entertainers, to meet our athletes, to meet our general partners who do the investing. But also we want to give them a chance to like learn about the technologies that we're investing in, so we can have our games team come in and say like, here's how we're thinking about the future of games. Here's how we're thinking about the future of AI. And so we try to do that once a year. It is only for our investors, so I'm sad I can't invite everybody. But it wouldn't be CLF if we didn't throw a little sauce on it. We had to throw a little sauce. So having the Dream come was a great addition. He showed out. He did a great job. But I encourage people to, even if you don't, whatever fund you invest in, or if you find a way to invest, always find the moments where you can meet the founders and meet the other investors. That just happens to be ours.
Megan, I want to ask you this. What happens when an investor and a founder, and a funder, they're not connecting and clicking, and they want to, is there always an exit plan? Like, how does that work, and how frequent does that happen? How frequently?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it can be like a marriage. And people don't always,
because marriage don't always last.
They don't always last.
More than half of them.
The data shows they don't last.
It's like more than 50% do not.
Yeah, it's insane. But I think of it very similar. Friends break up. You get a job that you hate.
Because money definitely can put a damper on any type of
any
relationship.
Yeah.
Especially when your goals aren't necessarily aligned, or, I think even as a founder, when you have people that you have to, I know Pinky will talk about this, used to having your own thing, but now you have other people that you have to be accountable for and answer to. And that can be beneficial or it cannot.
Yep, 1,000%.
Stressful.
I think a lot of it comes with like communication and maturity. The hope is that if something is not working out, that people can talk it out and figure it out.
Right.
And if you can't, you can find a exit plan, whether it's selling your shares in the company to somebody else or just saying, okay, from this point on, this is how we're going to divide it out. But it happens.
Because I can imagine that, as for myself being like a founder also, it is very emotional connecting you to your business. And sometimes it's hard to discuss what you see as something that's your baby with somebody that may not have been there from the beginning. But one, you always have to remember, nobody's going to love your baby like you. And then nobody's going to love your baby like you. Like, my baby not ugly.
It's just a little bit ugly, not completely ugly.
You're gonna outgrow
my
that.
babies are cute. My two babies are cute.
You're gonna outgrow that.
But also, you want people who are going to challenge you. You want people who are going to challenge your thinking, because you don't want yes men around you, whether they're your friends or your investors. So you want them to be able to call you out. But then also you want them to be there through the hard times. If you have, because companies go through hard times. Like sometimes there's a dip in revenue. Sometimes you don't make your numbers. But you want people to say, like, I invested because I believed in you. Let's figure this out. And usually, I'm assuming when it falls apart, it might be a failure in one of those three things. But the hope is that people can resolve it amicably. And sometimes that's just saying, hey, this is where we part ways.
Okay. All right.
Wow. So how can people follow you in CLF?
Oh, yes. So CLF is at A16Z CLF. On my personal page, I don't talk a lot about CLF, but it's at Megan H. Alexander on Instagram. But A16Z CLF on X and Instagram. Is that right? Beautiful.
Awesome. And we'll share that with everybody. And we really appreciate you lighting the fire under people that we're all in a tech AI economy.
Listen, I'm
we just got to
trying
figure out
to.
how to be in it and how we can all capitalize it, because we can.
Because we can capitalize, and we deserve to be a part of the economics that are being created. And I want to help ensure, and CLF overall is like, how do we ensure that we have some economics, some ownership? Because that's where the game changes, is ownership. How do we get involved in that?
I thank you so much for coming here, too. I think that you're so empowering, and for people to see you speaking about things like this is going to be a lot more of a connection than if somebody
Angela,
else
I'm trying to be empowering like you.
was.
Because you got a voice that people hear all over the world. And so in your own way, you are absolutely pushing the culture forward, and I'm just trying to match
Now,
your
listen,
energy.
this is our responsibility to bring people like you up here that I think are credible, are vetted out, that have the experience.
Sure.
And this means a lot to our audience. So I appreciate you so much. It is Financial Literacy Month, but for us, it's Financial Literacy Year every year.
Yeah.
So
Every day.
You are what
so
Wealth
much.
Wednesdays is about.
Listen, such an honor, such an honor. I'm so pleased.
and she's fly too. Let's just talk about that for a second.
now.
That helps.
Totally fly.
Here y'all go.
Totally fly.
Because I don't get to put on real clothes every day. So I said when I got to go outside, I got to put on something real. But thank you so much. Such an honor.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you,
Wednesday.
Stacey.